And welcome to our last in the series of videos for the TV production class. This is on directing, and this is chapter 17 in your book. Welcome to De Anza Master Control. Hey, let's get going here. All right. So directing, in directing, the director has determined the program objective, and that program objective is the desired, right? It's the desired effect, right? It's what we want the audience to get. And we get that desired effect through the medium requirements, through manipulating the medium requirements and processing the message. This is the process message model, right? And we will get eventually to an actual effect, and that actual effect hopefully will be pretty close to the desired effect. And most of the objectives are listed on the title page of the script of the proposal, right? And the script or the proposal. So this has already been scripted out. Here's our desired effect. Here's the medium requirements we're going to use. We're going to use 3 cameras, 2 servers, this kind of thing, right? And with maybe packages, remote packages that we pre-packaged and brought in, man on street kind of interviews. And that's all outlined in the proposal, the script or the proposal. So the director's job is to use the medium requirements to process the message so we get the desired effect. Now, there's all sorts of different scripts that we can be using in directing. This one here is a news script, okay? So on this side is the script of what the anchor is going to be saying on the news, and these are other kinds of cues, and then these are the director's cues over here. So in this case, we've got a 3-camera shoot, and we're using 3 servers. Server A is a record server, server B is a playback server, and we also have server C, which is a playback server. So as we get going, the director would go, take 2, mic, standby, take 2, cue. Let me do it in real order, in the order it says on the script, right? Take 2, mic, cue, standby, B. Okay, so take 2 is to the technical director to take camera 2. Mic is to the audio person to bring up the mic. And when you bring up the mic, you bring it up quickly. You don't use the switch because sometimes they can pop, but you use the fader and fade it up quickly as if it were a switch, right? Cue is to the floor director to go cue talent, right? And standby B is to the server operator to stand by to roll server B. All right. So once the floor director is giving the cue, then the talent starts reading the script, right? And the teleprompter script rolls. Now we get down here, there's a bunch of different things here, right? These will be in the teleprompter too, so that the talent on camera will be able to see what's coming up. Take SOT, that means sound on tape, all right? So there's some sort of package that's coming on. It's from the server. Now we don't use tape anymore, but we still call them SOTs or SOT. I've heard people call them SOT, and sound on tape, even though we're not using tape, videotape anymore. And then somewhere we're going to go back on camera, right? Even though we may be rolling, oh, well, here it says take 2. So what's going to happen is that the talent is going to get down to here, and the director is going to go roll B, take B, sound full, standby 2. So roll B is to the server operator to hit play on server B. Take B is to the technical director to take server B. Sound full is to the audio person, and when you get a sound full, that's either a music cue or a cue for sound from the server. So if it was a sound full and you're playing music, you want the music all the way up. Excuse me. If you're playing a server, then you want whatever's on that server, the sound from that server, all the way up, and then that means that the mic will be out. And then standby 2, we're going to stand by to take 2. That's to the technical director again, and somewhere this sound on tape is going to end, and then we'll take 2, right? And that'll be a cue to the technical director again. Now, how do we know when this ends? There's no cue here for when the sound on tape is ended, right? Well, there's a countdown clock on every segment in the server. So every package that's in the server also has a clock on it and has a countdown on it. So the server operator is on the PLs and counting down and would give, a 10-second cue, 5, and start counting down at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the operator, the director would call take 2. Now, somebody pointed out in one of our labs, well, we don't roll and take where I technical direct. And that's true because a lot of our automatic program control or a lot of our video switchers, right, have this capability in it to roll and take. All right. So in some places you don't have a physical server operator to roll server B and server C. You roll it from the video switcher itself. Right. So, but in this particular case, we have a separate operator for the servers, and they do the server role. Okay, here's another script. You may have seen this before. These other two types of scripts, if you've done film work, done film scripts, you've seen these before. This is the AV script. We got audio on one side, which basically what the characters are going to be saying, and the video is pretty much what we're going to be seeing in picture. Okay, it's kind of like that storyboard, and if there's any camera movements, there may be movements like we're gonna pan to this or that sort of thing. But here we got a close-up of John playing the clarinet, right? So that gives you some idea of what's going on. And before that script's generated, we might have a script like this, which is a drama script. This might be in your proposal. So we might have just kind of, this is so that the people who are reading the script, who are maybe greenlighting the project, everybody's talking about what's going to happen in your show, it's going to be like, and you get this single column drama script that just pretty much has the drama. So basically you go from a drama script to the AV script when you're to get your storyboard going. And then you might go to that script that we have for directing that we first showed you. Now, in television, we have this thing called a rundown, okay? And this is another document that's generated. And it's a neat piece of software because it combines the functionality of teleprompter and script writing software. So, and this particular rundown is useful in a news format. Okay, but there are rundowns generated for anything that's produced in television. They operate pretty much the same. So what happens in the television news format is that the people in the newsroom, they're writing their scripts. Once they get the script approved and it's okay, they input it into the software where it goes into the teleprompter. It gets loaded into the teleprompter automatically, and it also gets loaded into this rundown. All right, and this rundown tells the director, but then also tells everybody else who's operating what's happening, because you have anchors, you have talent, you have CG people, you have server operators, you have the floor director, all needing to know how this magic is going to happen. So let's read this rundown. This is a rundown of a 30-minute news program, okay? And this news program has 4 blocks. It has an A block, a B block, a C block, and a D block. And each one of these blocks is separated by a commercial break. So this area here is the segment number. So this is block A, segment 1, so this is A3 and A5, right? Here's the B block, and we have our segments in there, and C and D block with their segments as well, right? This next area here is the video source. So in this case, we're using, this is the weather, because that's the slug here is kind of the title of that segment. And so this is the weather segment. And so we're going to be at the weather set. and we're going to have the weather script up if there is any, right? And this is the video source, 3ME. Okay, I didn't tell you that this is a 3-camera shoot. Now, if we had more than one anchor, we would have camera 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, that kind of thing. But it looks like we have only one anchor, so we're shooting the anchor with only camera 2. In this case, we are shooting the weathercaster with camera 3. All right, what's 3ME? Well, we're using the ME, the multi-layered effects bus, for this, because in the weather cast, we're using the green screen, right? And then at some point, we may even put a lower third. Okay, so that's 2 forms of chroma key, basically. So we're using a multi-layer key effect. We're using a background key, using the camera, and then also a lower third. And so that's an ME, because we're using a multi-layered effect. In our entertainment segment, we're doing the same thing, right? Because the entertainment in this particular show happens on the same place where the weather happens. And the entertainment person is standing in front of the same green screen with a different background, with an entertainment kind of logo background. And again, they're going to need some sort of lower third. And then in this one, this is 3-box. What's going on here is that we're using camera 3 for the sports person. Sports in this particular case has its own set, but since cameras 1 and camera 2 are on the anchors, camera 3 then has to shoot the weather entertainment set and then kind of swivels over to get the sports segment. 3-box, what's going on over there is that we actually have a graphics we have an over-the-shoulder shot. So we have a box that maybe has the logo. In this case, it's the Warriors, right? So the over-the-shoulder shot might have the Warriors logo right there. So that's explaining all the different video sources here. Now, we didn't put on here, well, we'll get to the graphics in a second. These are the titles or the slugs. So the title of each one of these segments. This is the playback server. Now, remember, I said we had playback. Server A was recording, the event. Server B is for playback, and server C is also for playback. Notice that we flip-flop between server B and C. So if we've used server B for one segment, the next time we use a server, even if it's way downstream, we'll use server C, right? So we're always flip-flopping between servers. So we start on server B for our open. This next event, and we're going to be playing back server C, and then we're going to go play server B here. For our commercial break, we've got all of our commercials loaded in order on server C, and they're just going to play one right after the other. So server C for the commercial, we go back to server C. Now, since we use server C here and there's no server commands here, we're going to be using server B for this last commercial break. It's obscured by the title here, but notice on this segment here, we have server C. So we're maintaining that flip-flop. All right. And then this is the audio source. So if there's nothing there, then that implies that we're going to be using the on-camera source, right? We're going to be using the microphones. So SOT. Okay, so these abbreviations, some of them are standard in the industry. And then some of them might be standard in the industry, but also might be unique to each culture, each working culture. And they might differ depending on where you're going. So SOT is sound on tape, right? So the show open is a file that we're playing back off of the server B, and all the audio is right there. All right. And then this is MOS for man on street. Okay. We don't have a gender neutral thing here. Maybe we'll come up with something like that. But we're going to be playing a package on playback server C, and it's going to be sound full because it's man on street. So whoever is the reporter went out with their camera and their microphone and interviewed people on the street, and then cut all that up, presented a package, had that inputted into server C. All right, here's sound on tape. This is RDR, this is for reader, which means that we're going to have somebody on camera just reading it. And it's up there just so that we know that it's changed from this. And I guess we haven't, well, we haven't gone to graphics yet, but we've got an over the shoulder shot here with a box there. And this is going to be a reader. I've heard this called OC for on camera in some places. VO, so we're going to have a voiceover, right? So this is kind of a complicated thing going on here because we have this 3 box going on. So it means we're going to have that over the shoulder shot. I'm going to put it over there, right? So we have the Warriors logo there. And then somewhere while we're reading about the Warriors game last night when they lost, right? We're going to cut to server C, which is going to have video of the Warriors running up and down the court, shooting and making baskets and shooting and missing baskets, who knows? And while that's happening, we're still going to have the mic full. We're going to be using the mic and having the sports anchor reading the copy off the teleprompter. So that's the voiceover there. All right. In some cases, when they do this, they might run a little bit of sound from server C if it's all audience, and sometimes they don't because sometimes they get this this information, they get this video from somebody who's giving play-by-play and they don't want that sound up. So we go back to the reader here or the on camera. And do we have something else? Oh, the graphic build right here. This is a full shot because what's happening with the weathercaster is that the weathercaster is in front of the green screen. So it's a full shot and the graphics are also full, right? So the graphics, like what I have right here, right? We don't have a little box over here and we don't have a little lower third. Now, all of these, this here is CG up next. So this is an actual lower third that says up next. So when the anchor is the anchor is teasing, well, after the break, we're going to come back with our entertainment segment and talk about Beauty and the Beast. There'll be a lower third that says up next. We don't have any commands here, and we should have commands for the lower thirds for the anchors for all of our people. Anytime somebody new comes on your screen, you need to identify them. All right. So if we have anchors, they need, when the anchors first come on, we need a lower third for them. Right. And same thing for our entertainment reporter, our weather reporter, and our sports reporter. They need a lower third identifying them every first time that we see them. Also in this, we got this man on the street kind of thing, and we don't have any lower third information. But it's a good idea to have lower thirds for all of the people that you're interviewing on the street, right? Joe from Concord, Ann from San Francisco, that kind of thing, right? In this case, what they did, they put those lower thirds in the package. So the reporter that assembled the pack, recorded, shot, assembled the package, put the lower thirds in there. Now, in a lot of places, they don't do that. They actually put the lower thirds in live during the broadcast, and that's kind of standard too. That's so that they can gives them more flexibility if they rerun this this particular segment at another time, or if they chop it up or something like that. So in a lot of facilities, there'll be graphics cues, and they will put those lower thirds in real time from the control room, and you can see them getting it wrong because a lot of times. I mean, look for that, because you'll see somebody and it says Ann from San Francisco, and it's obviously a guy or something, right? And that means that the technical director in the control room's a little out of sync. So that's how you read the rundown. There's some more parts here. This is the runtime. This is the segment runtime. So our goodbye should last 5 seconds, right? This story runs 50 seconds. And then we also have the total runtime. So the total runtime of everything here is almost 20 minutes, which is okay, because when you add in the commercial breaks, you're going to get really close to, 29 minutes and 30 seconds, something like that for our 30-second program. right? So there's your rundown. Really, really useful piece of a really useful document. Tells everybody what's going on. The timeline is a production schedule. So here today, we're going to be doing this kind of news magazine show. It's not a newscast, but something like 60 Minutes or something like that. And we're producing it. And here's the timeline of events and that we're going to be doing while we're recording the show. All right. So the crew and the crew comes in, we do our pre-production kind of stuff in the studio, we break for lunch, we have a dress rehearsal, take another, we notes and reset, which means that, what worked, what didn't, what adjustments, and we take a break and we start recording. This is good. Spill a little period to fix whatever needs fixing. So if we need to come back and, we need to re-record a certain segment, that kind of thing. And then here's your strike. All right. These are the calls to the crew that the director will be giving. And so this is the particular crew member, and these are the calls that they'll be getting. So the technical director gets take, dissolve, wipe, key, fade, lose, right? And sometimes that's a fade to black or something like that. Audio might get mic, so that's when bring up the mics. Sound full would either be music or the server comes up full, right? Under, that might be a music cue. It could be a server cue too. So under means that you're going to bring down that audio source under because the mic's going to be over it, right? So that's like in a VO, in a voiceover. So you're going to have your talent is going to be talking, reading off the script, but you're going to have music under, or you're going to have SOT under, all right? And out, everything goes out. And again, when you bring things out, you bring the fader down quickly. You don't pop it out. You don't use that on-off switch to pop it out, generally. Okay, camera persons, they have their own calls. So truck, dolly, pedestal, zoom, pan, tilt, focus. And we covered that in the camera operator segment. We've got center. So let's say we've had that OTS shot and we're like this, right? Because we do have to have it kind of like that. So we drop the OTS shot, the director says center. And so, excuse me, you've got a pan to get the talent in the center, right? Headroom means that, you don't want the person, at frame. You don't want their head at frame. You need a little headroom for that. And lead room, let's say we're doing that weather segment, right? Well, you're going to need a little lead room. So you're going to have to, pan a little bit. So your person using the green screen has some lead room. The lead is we're leading, giving them lead in the front of their face. We're leading them. Remember our vectors? Our vector is implying some sort of movement or attention this way, right? Because my face, my attention, my nose is going that way. So the vector's going that way. So that's what we're leading. We're leading for that vector, all right? And then the floor director has certain cues, the standby, the count, where we're counting in, cut, kill. And we have some slides on the floor director and all the floor director's cues. Right. And the server gets a roll server or stop server. So it's roll B, stop B. So we input our script and it generates a rundown. On the other side, it also generates teleprompter. So in this case, we've got our teleprompter happening. And here we have, we've got two, let's go down to here. We've got two, and this is generated from the rundown that I showed, from a different day's rundown, but the same software that I showed you before. So this is segment A. This is the show open. That's an SOT on server B, right? And then this is the hello. So we have two anchors. And this is to both of them. So they both are going to be reading this. This is Daniel's script. And somewhere down here, it'll say, Marie's, it'll have Marie with a box, and that will be what Marie says right there. All right. So we have that scripted out. And here's your teleprompter person, much like us, rolling that teleprompter script and rolling it here. So let's get into the floor director. Floor director is the director's hands and eyes and ears in the studio, and is basically running the studio at the behest of the director. Some places they call this the floor manager, so that name is interchangeable, floor manager or floor director. If you're more from a stage background, you might call them a manager because, you know, stage managers and things like that. From more of a broadcast background, you might call them a floor director because directors, right? And they entered the floor manager, director, interfaces with all these different people. It's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun because you get to interface with all sorts of different people and equipment. Now, before the show, the floor director is really instrumental in that pre-production process, especially like that day of show, getting every, you know, arriving early and getting everything set. So assists with the production planning, make sure all the equipment is in place, and then performs an equipment check. All right, what kind of lights do we need? What kind of microphones do we need? Do the microphones all have batteries, right? Are the lights all working? Are the, you know, how about the cameras, you know, and making sure the cameras work, all of that kind of thing. Briefs the talent. So sometimes the talent needs some special instructions. It can brief the talent during the show, like when they're in a commercial break, or when the talent's off camera and we're on a different camera, can run up there and brief the talent. Assist guests. If you're doing a kind of show where you're having guests in the studio, make sure that the guests arrive. When they arrive, you know, in the studio, they have a place to go and stay out of the way. And then when they're ready to have them come on set, they help assist them on set and get them mic'd and, you know, brief the guests a little bit about what's going on before their segment. If you're having an audience, they prepare the audience. And that's a really critical phase. In some shows, you have a live audience, right? And you have somebody there that warms up the audience, right? And so this might be a comedian or somebody who's there to kind of like really help get the person warmed up. In a lot of our late night shows, the late night performer comes out and actually helps warm up the audience before the show. And if that person has a sidekick, that person also helps warm up the audience. But in some cases, you don't. It's the floor director. So the floor director is helping prepare the audience for what goes on, establishing a rapport with the audience. And, you know, now the applause light's going to come on. So when the applause lights come on, everybody be able to applaud. Let's hear you applaud. All right, now a little louder. Okay, that's what we want. You know, that kind of thing, right? And then when the applause lights come on, the floor director will be, you know, cueing the audience as well. And then they also coordinate the rehearsals. And during the show, provides cue, like stand by, cue, gives your, you know, seconds and, you know, how your timing and everything like that. Information presenters, talent and crew, relays information between control room and studio, because the director may call in and say, we need them to know this, you know, and also informs the director back, you know, this is happening in the studio, or our guest for our B segment has arrived. We've got them standing by, and when we're in commercial break, you know, we'll direct them to the set, right? So you inform the director, yeah, our guest for segment B has arrived and is standing by. Manages program schedule for any changes in action, because that can happen, as there might be something different that happens, you know, something happens, we get breaking news, right? And we may have to manage that. Oversees any safety issues, and this is important. All right, so make sure that nothing is happening in the studio that presents a danger to any of the people there. You know, safety chains, cabling, our camera cables, our mic cables, footwear, all of that kind of stuff, and deals with any technical issues. Now, if something breaks, you call an engineer, but there might be minor technical issues like changing batteries or making sure a connector is connected, making sure a light works, or figuring out, you know, managing a problem that's happening at that time. So they can deal with certain technical issues. And then here are the floor director hand signals: stand by, cue, you know, stand by on the floor, stand by talent, cue, right? So there's the cue. And there can be different cues. I've seen overhand cues, and then I'm not standing up, but in some places they do an underhand cue, because I don't know, some places do that. So they just, maybe that's more of a sweep, you know, maybe it's more of a something that is really noticeable. just make sure that the floor director is standing by the camera that is going on air, right? So we're going to be taking this camera or fading up on this camera, so the director is there. Director needs to stand, or the floor director needs to stand in the light field, right? If Tanya was standing back a little bit and would be in the dark, then the people on set wouldn't be able to see her. So our floor director has to be standing in the field of light, but has to be standing so that when she does any cues, it doesn't get in the, it doesn't get caught by the camera. So that's to stand in a specific place by the cameras that are going to be happening in the light, but out of the way of the lens. All right, here's some hand signals, cut, right? So there's a cut signal. You're cutting that across the throat. Here is a wrap up signal. The wrap up signal is with the fist, right? So it's wrap up. So we've got an interview segment, right? And we know the questions. We've kind of scripted it out and everything, but it's an organic kind of thing that can go long. And so we're running out of time, so we're going to wrap up. Now, maybe it seems like we're going short. It seems like we got through all of our questions in this segment, but we still have 30 seconds left, 30 seconds to our segment. Stretch, right? So there's the stretch cue. Like we're stretching a rubber band, right? And this is like get closer. So if you're doing a 2-shot, you want to get your people closer together, you do it with the palms raised. That's get closer together. And then now Tanya's going to give us a count. So we're counting in and then the cue. So here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Now notice she doesn't speak the 2, 1 or cue, right? That's so that if our microphone gets, gets live, gets hot, a little too soon, we don't hear the cue happening in the studio.
4, 3.
Notice Tanya also is European.
3.
That's culture she comes from. So she gives you the European 3, which if you can handle, that's fine. You come from American culture where we do this. So for me, it's easier to go 5, 4, 3. But when you think about it, if you train yourself, 5, 4, 3 might be easier to do. But I've never trained myself to do. Either one works.
3.
And cue, next slide. All right. So we had the get closer together, which was palms raised, right? Well, then the get farther apart is palms down, right? Because if you're telling somebody to get farther apart, you're going to go like that, and then you're going to want to do it again. You're going to keep going like that. Well, that's could be the get closer together. So this is the get farther apart. Speed up. You've got a clock, right? The old style analog clock that goes around and around. So speed up. So that's why the raised fist is wrap up. That's not talk faster. That's wrap up the segment. This is talk faster, or get going. Make the action happen faster. And then I have some other ones here. Speak more softly, and that's not kind of like this. That's almost quiet. This just get softer. This is speak up to your ear because we want to hear you. And you always throw to the camera. And so you may be standing in between 2 cameras, and we're on this camera right here, and the director goes, and take 2, and then you're going to have to go, point to this camera over here. I'm off camera, so you can't see it, but we're on this camera, okay, and then now we're on that camera. And sometimes if the camera movement is some sort of fade too, you can do this. So you give your talent a little time to move with it. When we were doing our biographies, we wanted everybody on one camera, even if we were on a camera shooting you from the side, but people, were following tally lights, but that was our first production, right? And so now the directors can control, if you want your talent to follow the tally lights, the floor director should also do that too, should follow the director's cues. If you want your talent not to follow the tally lights, the floor director may need to keep reminding people, okay, we're on this camera, even though we're shooting, this camera right now we're on. I want you to throw to this camera, that kind of thing. Well, that's our segment on directing. And that is the end of our lecture series. How about that? So be sure to read chapter 17 and take the quiz. And then I think next week is a final. We'll get to that. But I hope you've enjoyed the series. Hope things that you understand, we've helped raise your understanding of this great medium of television production in a live setting. And be sure to check out the quiz.